My husband, he does it brilliantly. He can do all the voices.
At 85 years old, Andrew Parker Bowles has finally broken his decades-long silence. And what he's revealed is nothing short of jaw-dropping. For years, the truth behind his high-profile divorce from Queen Camilla has been buried beneath royal headlines, whispered rumors, and carefully guarded statements. But now, the man once at the heart of Britain's most talked-about love triangle is speaking out. Why did he walk away from Camilla? What ended their royal romance? The answer may surprise you and change everything you thought you knew. A marriage in the shadows. In every marriage, some moments define the future, moments when love either deepens or begins to slip away. For Andrew Parker Bowles, those moments came quietly, wrapped in glances, silences, and subtle shifts in his wife's heart. On the surface, he and Camilla appeared to be a picture-perfect couple, aristocratic, polished, and comfortably nestled in high society. But beneath that smooth exterior, something invisible had taken root. Something, or rather, someone, was always there, lingering in the background. That someone was Prince Charles. Although Camilla's romantic affair with Charles was said to have ended before she married Andrew, the truth was far more complicated. While the physical relationship may have stopped, at least for a while, the emotional connection between them never truly faded. Charles hadn't just been a passing love, he had left an imprint on Camilla's soul. And Andrew, though never one to wear his emotions openly, began to feel it in the quietest but most painful of ways. He noticed it in how her expression would change when Charles's name came up. He sensed it in the letters she carefully hid away, in the hushed phone calls that always seemed to happen behind closed doors. Even during family dinners and social outings, Camilla sometimes seemed distant, as if part of her attention, her affection, was elsewhere. Andrew began to feel like a guest in his marriage, performing the role of the dutiful husband, while his wife's heart slowly drifted in another direction. This wasn't about jealousy, not in the usual sense. Andrew had lived a life surrounded by flirtations, aristocratic affairs, and social discretion. But what made this different was the depth of Camilla's bond with Charles. It wasn't just emotional, it was almost spiritual, and it was enduring. No matter how many years passed or what stage of life they were in, Charles was always present. He may not have been physically in the room, but his shadow never truly left. Andrew once confided to a close friend that he often felt like a placeholder, someone who was there not because he was the love of Camilla's life, but because he fit the timeline, because he made sense, because he provided structure. But emotionally, he was not the one she turned to first in her mind or her heart. He had the role, the responsibilities, and the public image of a husband, but none of the intimacy that made that role meaningful. In time, that emotional absence became a weight too heavy to ignore. It chipped away at the foundation of their marriage, one day at a time. While the public saw a refined couple raising children and attending royal events, Andrew saw a bond withering behind closed doors. It wasn't anger that consumed him. It was sadness, and a growing realization that his wife's heart had never fully been his to begin with. And that, more than any scandal or affair, was the true heartbreak. While the world saw a devoted husband, Andrew silently felt love slipping through his fingers. To understand how it all unraveled, we must first return to where it began. Perfect beginning and the hidden cracks. This part of the story takes us back to the early days of Andrew Parker Bowles and Camilla Shand, a time when everything seemed perfect on the surface. To outsiders, they looked like the ultimate golden couple, almost like something out of a fairy tale. Both came from well-established aristocratic families, known and respected in British high society. Their lives were filled with charm, elegance, and the kind of effortless grace that made them the envy of their peers. Andrew, with his rugged good looks and polo-playing skills, was seen as the quintessential gentleman, strong, confident, and quietly charismatic. Camilla, with her radiant smile and natural poise, was equally admired, moving gracefully through the elite social circles they both belonged to. Together they seemed to embody the perfect union of tradition, class, and youthful promise. Their world was one of lavish polo matches under the bright sun, where Andrew's skill on the field drew applause and admiration. Their evenings were spent at elegant dinners, mingling with royalty, diplomats, and the crème de la crème of London society. It was a life filled with sparkling crystal glasses, laughter echoing through grand ballrooms, and whispered conversations behind lace curtains. To anyone watching, Andrew and Camilla's relationship seemed like a shining example of love and partnership. They were the couple who had it all: beauty, status, and a shared future, full of promise. Their names were spoken together with admiration, their story told as one of those rare romances that seemed destined to last forever. But beneath this sparkling surface, cracks were already beginning to form. Behind the polished smiles and social grace, something more complicated was unfolding, a subtle, hidden tension that no one wanted to acknowledge. Those cracks weren't obvious at first. They were like tiny shadows creeping slowly across a sunlit room, easy to miss, but impossible to ignore once you looked closely. Beneath the laughter and the glamour, there were moments of doubt and distance, moments when the warmth between them cooled, when the shared smiles became less frequent. Those who knew them well could sense it, an emotional triangle starting to take shape, even if no one was ready to name it. This was the beginning of a story far more tangled than the fairy tale it appeared to be. It was a story of love complicated by loyalty, desire mixed with ambition, and hearts caught between duty and longing. The glittering surface of Andrew and Camilla's early life hid a deeper truth, a truth that would soon unravel their seemingly perfect world and change their lives forever. This section invites us to look beyond the glamorous images and understand that even the most flawless beginnings can hide the seeds of heartbreak, betrayal, and a destiny none of them could escape. Andrew and Camilla's early love felt like a dream. Their story looked like a fairy tale, but it only lasted long enough to hide the trouble quietly growing underneath. Now, let's look at how Camilla's quiet change slowly left Andrew Parker Bowles behind. The hidden ambitions. This is the part of Andrew Parker Bowles' story where everything changes, where the quiet discomfort of a failing marriage turns into something far more unsettling. Until now, it had seemed like the breakdown of his relationship with Camilla was rooted in emotions, a lingering love for Prince Charles, a lack of closeness, a growing emotional gap. But as Andrew began to pay closer attention, he saw something far deeper and more deliberate at play. The woman he had once known, playful, witty, and openly skeptical of the royal world, was slowly becoming someone else. Camilla, in her younger years, had always made fun of the stiffness and formalities of royal life. She joked about the rules, rolled her eyes at traditions, and never seemed the type to want a place in the spotlight. That's what made her refreshing, even charming. But over time, Andrew began to notice a shift in her. Camilla was no longer mocking the monarchy, she was studying it. And not just casually. She was observing, learning, and adapting. Andrew recalls finding newspaper clippings, notes written in her handwriting about royal events, and lists of people in the royal circle who might be useful someday. It was as if she had moved from being a passive observer of the royal world to a student of it, and then eventually a determined player within it. He watched her reshape herself, not physically, but mentally and emotionally. The woman who once scoffed at formal dinners began planning her outfits and conversations around who might be attending. She started building quiet alliances with people who had connections to the palace, former aides, press advisors, and politicians. She began appearing at events not just as a guest, but as someone who understood how to command the right kind of attention. At first, Andrew didn't fully grasp what was happening. He thought maybe it was a phase, or a reaction to the growing presence of Charles in their lives again. But slowly, the truth dawned on him. Camilla wasn't just drifting emotionally toward Charles. She was building a future with him, one that included the royal court, the public, and the crown. And Andrew, he was no longer part of that picture. He came to understand that he wasn't her final destination. He was a stepping stone. Their life, their home, even their children were becoming side notes in a much bigger story that Camilla was writing for herself. It wasn't just that she still loved Charles. It was that she was quietly preparing herself to walk beside him, not as a secret lover, but as someone who could be accepted, perhaps even welcomed, by the monarchy itself. For Andrew, the truth became impossible to ignore. He was no longer Camilla's true partner in life. But was this painful shift merely shaped by quiet changes and growing emotional distance? Or did Camilla eventually say the very words that shattered his last hopes? Let's find out. The moment that shattered it all. This part of Andrew Parker Bowles' story strikes like a dagger to the heart. It's where the true emotional weight of his experience finally lands. It wasn't just betrayal that hurt him. It wasn't just about Camilla's long-running affair with Prince Charles. It went far deeper than that. This was the moment everything he thought he understood about his marriage came crashing down. According to Andrew, the most painful truth didn't come from the headlines or the whispers in royal circles. It came straight from Camilla's lips in a moment of raw honesty that left him stunned. She told him, coldly, confidently, and without apology, that he was never meant to be her forever, that their marriage, their home, their children, and the years they spent together weren't her final goal. He was simply a chapter in her story, a bridge between the life she had and the life she wanted. That revelation didn't just break his heart. It made him question everything. Had their entire relationship been built on false ground? Was he merely a placeholder, someone who fit the role at the time, but was always destined to be replaced when the crown came calling? Andrew had long suspected the emotional bond between Camilla and Charles was more than friendship. Their connection was undeniable, powerful, even magnetic. But he never imagined that his entire marriage might have been part of a quiet, long-term strategy. The idea that Camilla had always seen Charles as her endgame, and that Andrew was simply a stepping stone toward that goal, left him shaken to the core. He began to replay moments in their life together, wedding vows, family holidays, private conversations, with new eyes. He remembered how Camilla never quite seemed satisfied with their place in the world. She brushed off royal protocol in public, but studied it closely, behind closed doors. How she played her role as a wife and mother, but kept part of herself guarded, as if waiting for something or someone else. In hindsight, the signs had always been there. But love, loyalty, and hope can blind even the most observant person. Andrew had believed in their story. He had believed in her. To hear her admit without remorse that he was never the one was more devastating than any affair. It wasn't just a rejection of love. It was a rejection of their entire shared history. She hadn't just left him for another man. She had used their life together as a cover, a means to get closer to the throne. And in that moment of truth, Andrew didn't just lose his wife. He lost the story he had been telling himself for decades, that they were a team, a partnership, two people navigating the world together. Instead, he realized he had been walking alone all along, on a path she had outgrown long before she ever said it out loud. Andrew's heartbreak wasn't just about losing his wife. It was about losing the life, the memories, and the story they had built together. But in the middle of that emotional wreckage stood their children. What became of them? How did they cope as their family quietly came undone? Let's find out. Between Two Worlds. Queen Camilla often finds herself at the heart of royal news and headlines, but her two children from her first marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, have led lives that are quietly fascinating in their own right. While they sometimes step into the royal spotlight, most of the time they remain grounded, living real, relatable lives away from the constant glare of the public eye. Despite growing up surrounded by nobility and royal connections, Tom and Laura have each carved out their own unique paths, marked by creativity, calm confidence, and subtle but meaningful links to the crown. Tom, the older sibling, was born on December 18, 1974. His family story is unusual in British history because his stepfather is also his godfather, King Charles. This rare family bond adds a special twist to his background, but Tom has never relied on royal fame. Instead, he's made a name for himself in a very different field, the world of food. Tom is a respected food writer, critic, and cookbook author. Over many years, he has become a familiar voice in publications such as Esquire UK and The Mail on Sunday, where his restaurant reviews are known for being both honest and thoughtful. He has also appeared on several food TV shows as a judge and guest expert, bringing not only his knowledge but also a touch of aristocratic charm to the kitchen. Most recently, Tom published a book that beautifully combines his royal ties with his passion for cooking, titled Cooking and the Crown: Royal Recipes from Queen Victoria to King Charles. At the book's launch, he warmly thanked the King and Queen, my mother, and the King, saying their support and insight were essential in bringing the project to life. In his personal life, Tom married fashion editor Sarah Baez in 2005. Together, they have 2 children, Lola, born in 2007, and Freddie, born in 2010. Although Tom and Sarah later separated, he remains a devoted father. Freddie notably took part in royal history by serving as a page of honor during his grandmother Camilla's coronation. Laura Lopes, born on January 1, 1978, has chosen a quieter path. Educated at a Catholic boarding school and later at Oxford Brookes University, she stepped into the art world, managing London's Space Gallery, before co-founding 11, a fine art gallery in the upscale Belgravia neighborhood. In 2006, she married Harry Lopes, a former model turned accountant who now leads Eden Renewables as CEO. The couple has 3 children, Eliza and twins Gus and Louis, all of whom joined in the coronation, with Gus and Louis serving as pages alongside their cousin Freddie. Though linked to royalty, Tom and Laura have forged their own paths, building careers, raising families, and creating personal legacies. Now let's delve into Andrew's quiet departure from a life that never fully belonged to him. The quiet exit. After the emotional wreckage of his marriage to Camilla, Andrew Parker Bowles faced a choice that could have changed everything, not just for himself, but for the royal family as well. He had every reason to lash out. His wife had left him for Prince Charles, the future king. The betrayal was personal, public, and deeply humiliating. Any other man might have spoken to the press, written a book, or become a permanent fixture in the headlines, using his pain to settle scores. But Andrew chose a different path, one that very few in his position would have had the strength to follow. He chose silence. He didn't hold press conferences or make bitter statements. He didn't leak private letters or go on talk shows. Instead, he disappeared quietly from the royal drama unfolding around him, while Camilla gradually stepped into the spotlight, first as Charles' companion, then as his wife, and finally as queen. Andrew slipped out of view, taking with him all the secrets, pain, and truth he could have weaponized. This part of his story reveals just how rare and powerful dignity can be. Andrew didn't just walk away from the marriage, he walked away from the opportunity to become a media sensation. He had front-row knowledge of one of the most controversial royal affairs in modern history, yet he never used it for fame or revenge. He understood that saying nothing could speak louder than anything he might say. As the years passed, the public began to forget his role in the story. Camilla was slowly rewritten into the royal narrative, not as the other woman, but as a central figure in Charles' destiny. Meanwhile, Andrew became something of a ghost. He wasn't mentioned in documentaries. His name rarely appeared in articles about the royal romance. It was as if he had never been part of the picture at all. And that erasure may have hurt just as deeply as the divorce. For decades, Andrew had been Camilla's partner, the father of her children, the man who stood beside her through family milestones and royal entanglements. But history is rarely kind to those who choose quiet exits. He became the man behind the scenes, a silent witness to a love triangle that shaped the monarchy, yet was never given a voice in its retelling. Still, Andrew never wavered. He remained loyal to a personal code, one of honor, restraint, and self-respect. In doing so, he kept his dignity intact, even as others rewrote the script. He may have been pushed out of the spotlight, but he never let the world drag him into the chaos that followed. And in an age where every slight becomes a scandal, Andrew Parker Bowles' decision to walk away quietly might just be the most powerful statement of all. Andrew's silence forged a legacy stronger than any outcry. His quiet retreat was dignity amid betrayal. Now let's uncover how Andrew's courage changed everything we thought we knew beyond the palace walls. In this final and most powerful part of Andrew Parker Bowles' story, everything we thought we knew about the infamous royal love triangle is turned on its head. For years, the tale of Prince Charles, Camilla, and Andrew was framed as a simple story of romance gone wrong, of forbidden love and broken hearts. But Andrew's long-held revelations shine a far more complicated and haunting light on the events. This wasn't just about love. It was about something much bigger: power, ambition, control, and the painful cost of being part of a story that wasn't yours to begin with. Through Andrew's eyes, we start to understand the deeper layers that were hidden beneath the surface. His version of events forces us to look again, not just at what happened, but at why it happened, and who paid the price. He speaks not as a bitter ex-husband, but as a man who quietly watched his life and identity be reshaped by forces beyond his control. Because in the end, this wasn't just a story about two people in love and one left behind. It was about a woman, Camilla, who learned how to navigate a world of power, image, and influence. A woman who transformed herself to survive in the world of royalty. And it was about a man, Andrew, who didn't just lose his wife, but slowly disappeared from the story altogether. His pain wasn't loud or dramatic. It was the slow, quiet loss of identity, of being replaced not just in a relationship, but in history itself. For years, Andrew watched the story of Camilla and Charles unfold on magazine covers, in documentaries, in official royal records, while his role was erased or reduced to a footnote. But now, with these long-hidden truths finally spoken, he reclaims his place, not to rewrite the past, but to fill in the parts that were left out. What Andrew shares is more than personal reflection. It's a gift to history, a reminder that the stories we're told, especially the glamorous, polished ones that come from palaces, often leave out the most human parts: the hurt, the sacrifice, the silence. His voice comes not from the throne room or the press box, but from the quiet shadows those places leave behind. And sometimes, that's where the real story lives. Not in the spotlight, but just outside it, where the people behind the curtain wait, hurt, and heal. Andrew Parker Bowles may have been pushed out of the public version of the royal fairy tale, but his final words bring a deeper truth to light: that behind every crown is a cost, and behind every happily ever after is someone who paid for it with their silence, their love, and sometimes their very sense of self. So, what do you think about Andrew's revelation on why he divorced Camilla? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.